From Babe Ruth's Yankees to the Big Red Machine to the modern Astros, baseball dynasties aren't just about talent, they're about perfect timing, organizational culture, and the ability to win when it matters most. In baseball, winning one championship is an achievement. Winning multiple championships in a short span is legendary, but creating a true dynasty, a period of sustained dominance that redefines excellence and strikes fear into opponents, that's baseball immortality. A dynasty isn't just about collecting rings. It's about creating a culture of winning so pervasive that success becomes expected rather than hoped for. It's about having the right players, the right leadership, and the right organizational philosophy all align at the perfect moment in history. Most importantly, it's about the ability to perform when the stakes are highest, when the pressure is greatest, and when the entire baseball world is watching. Today, we're examining every true dynasty in Major League Baseball history. The teams that didn't just win championships, but dominated their eras so completely that they changed how we think about excellence in baseball. From the dead ball era to the modern game, these dynasties represent the pinnacle of what's possible when talent meets opportunity and organizational culture. Let's start with the foundation of all baseball dynasties, the 1936 to 1939 New York Yankees. This Yankees dynasty represents the perfect storm of talent, timing, and organizational excellence. Coming off the Babe Ruth era, the Yankees could have easily declined. Instead, they discovered Joe DiMaggio and built around him one of the most complete teams in baseball history. DiMaggio arrived in 1936 at age 21 and immediately transformed the Yankees into an unstoppable force. His combination of hitting, fielding, and leadership provided the perfect centerpiece for a team that already featured Lou Gehrig, Bill Dickey, and Red Ruffing. The Yankees won 4 straight World Series from 1936 to 1939, going 16-3 in World Series games and outscoring their opponents 71-35. What made this dynasty special wasn't just the talent, it was the seamless transition from one generation of stars to the next. As Ruth aged out, DiMaggio stepped in. When Gehrig's career was tragically cut short by ALS, the Yankees found ways to maintain their excellence. The organization's ability to develop and acquire talent while maintaining a winning culture set the template for every dynasty that followed. The 1939 team, which went 106-45 despite losing Gehrig early in the season, is often considered the greatest team in baseball history. They swept the Cincinnati Reds in the World Series, completing a 4-year run of dominance that established the Yankees as baseball's premier franchise. But even this incredible run was just a warm-up for what came next, the 1949 to 1953 Yankees. If the late 1930s Yankees were great, the early 1950s Yankees were transcendent. Under manager Casey Stengel, they accomplished something that had never been done before and will likely never be done again. They won 5 consecutive World Series championships. This dynasty was built on depth, versatility, and Stengel's genius for maximizing talent. While they had stars like Mickey Mantle, Yogi Berra, and Whitey Ford, their strength was their ability to get contributions from everyone. Stengel pioneered platooning, used pinch hitters strategically, and managed his pitching staff with a sophistication that was ahead of its time. The Yankees' dominance during this period was so complete that they made winning look routine. They won the World Series in 1949, 1950, 1951, 1952, and 1953, defeating the Brooklyn Dodgers 3 times, the Philadelphia Phillies once, and the New York Giants once. Their postseason record during this stretch was an incredible 20-8. What made this dynasty remarkable was how they handled the transition from Joe DiMaggio to Mickey Mantle. DiMaggio's final season was 1951, Mantle's first. The passing of the torch from one Yankees legend to another symbolized the organization's ability to maintain excellence across generations. The 1949 to 1953 Yankees represent the peak of baseball dynasty achievement. No team before or since has won 5 consecutive championships, and in today's era of expanded playoffs and increased parity, it's virtually impossible to imagine anyone matching this feat. Moving beyond the Yankees' dominance, we find the 1910 to 1914 Philadelphia Athletics. Connie Mack's Athletics represent one of baseball's most fascinating dynasties because of how it ended. From 1910 to 1914, they were arguably the most dominant team in baseball, winning 4 American League pennants and 3 World Series titles. Their lineup featured the famous $100,000 infield of Stuffy McInnis, Eddie Collins, Jack Barry, and Home Run Baker, while their pitching staff was anchored by Chief Bender and Eddie Plank. The Athletics' dominance was built on a combination of power hitting and excellent pitching. Baker led the league in home runs 4 times during this period, while Collins was one of the greatest second basemen in history. Their pitching staff was deep and talented, with multiple Hall of Fame caliber arms. But this dynasty's story is as much about its ending as its success. After losing the 1914 World Series to the Miracle Boston Braves in a stunning upset, Mack became convinced that his players had given less than their best effort. Whether due to financial pressures from the Federal League or genuine disappointment with his team's performance, Mack dismantled the dynasty by selling off his star players. The Athletics went from World Series participants to last place almost overnight, showing how quickly a dynasty can crumble when organizational commitment wavers. It's a cautionary tale about the fragility of sustained excellence and the importance of maintaining focus even after achieving success. If you're liking this content, please take a second to give us a like and a subscribe to our channel. The 1942 to 1946 St. Louis Cardinals represent a different type of dynasty, one built during wartime when many of the game's best players were serving in the military. The Cardinals dynasty was anchored by Stan Musial, one of the greatest hitters in baseball history, and a deep, talented roster that could compete even when key players were called to military service. They won World Series titles in 1942, 1944, and 1946, with the 1943 and 1945 seasons interrupted by player departures for World War II. What made this dynasty special was its adaptability. The Cardinals had to constantly adjust their roster as players left for military service and returned. Musial himself missed the entire 1945 season, yet the team remained competitive. This flexibility and depth showed the strength of the organization's player development system and scouting network. The Cardinals' success during this period was built on a combination of hitting, pitching, and smart management. They had excellent balance between offense and defense, and they were particularly strong in clutch situations. Their ability to perform in the World Series, going 4-2 in their 6 World Series appearances during this stretch, showed their championship mettle. This dynasty also represents the last time a National League team would dominate baseball for an extended period until the 1970s, as the American League and particularly the Yankees would control the sport for the next 2 decades. The 1970s Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine, represent perhaps the most complete dynasty in baseball history. From 1970 to 1979, the Reds won 6 division titles, 4 National League pennants, and 2 World Series championships. But their dominance was about more than just titles. It was about the way they played the game. The Big Red Machine combined power, speed, defense, and pitching in a way that few teams have ever matched. The lineup was stacked with Hall of Fame talent: Johnny Bench behind the plate, Joe Morgan at second base, Pete Rose at third base and later first base, Tony Perez at first base, and George Foster in the outfield. This wasn't just a collection of good players. It was a group of superstars who complemented each other perfectly. What made the Big Red Machine special was their balance. They could beat you with power. Foster hit 52 home runs in 1977. They could beat you with speed. Morgan and Rose were excellent base stealers. They could beat you with defense. Bench is considered one of the greatest catchers ever. And they had enough pitching to support their explosive offense. The 1975 and 1976 World Series victories represent the peak of this dynasty. In 1975, they defeated the Boston Red Sox in what many consider the greatest World Series ever played. In 1976, they swept the New York Yankees, showing their dominance over both leagues. The Big Red Machine's legacy extends beyond their championships. They changed how baseball was played, emphasizing athleticism and versatility in ways that influenced the game for decades. Their success showed that a National League team could dominate during an era when the American League was considered superior. The 1972 to 1974 Oakland Athletics represent the most dysfunctional dynasty in baseball history, and perhaps the most entertaining. The A's won 3 consecutive World Series titles from 1972 to 1974, but they did it while constantly fighting with each other, their manager, and their owner. The clubhouse was a war zone, with players like Reggie Jackson and Catfish Hunter feuding with manager Dick Williams and owner Charlie Finley. Yet somehow, all this chaos translated into championship success. The A's were built around a core of talented players who thrived on conflict. Jackson provided the power and personality, Hunter anchored the pitching staff, and Raleigh Fingers dominated as a closer. The team's chemistry was terrible, but their talent was undeniable. What made this dynasty work was their ability to channel their anger and frustration into competitive fire. They played their best baseball when the stakes were highest, going 11-7 in World Series games during their 3-year run. They defeated the Cincinnati Reds, New York Mets, and Los Angeles Dodgers in consecutive World Series, showing they could beat any style of team. The A's dynasty ended almost as quickly as it began. After the 1974 season, Finley began selling off his star players rather than pay them market value. Hunter left for the Yankees, Jackson was eventually traded, and the dynasty crumbled. It's another example of how organizational commitment is crucial to sustain success. The 1996 to 2000 New York Yankees represent the last great dynasty of the 20th century and perhaps the most impressive championship run of the modern era. This Yankees dynasty was built around a core of homegrown players: Derek Jeter, Bernie Williams, Andy Pettitte, Jorge Posada, and Mariano Rivera, supplemented by key acquisitions and veteran leadership. Under manager Joe Torre, they created a culture of professionalism and excellence that made winning look effortless. The Yankees won 4 World Series titles in 5 years, including 3 consecutive championships from 1998 to 2000. Their 1998 season, when they went 114-48 in the regular season and 11-2 in the playoffs, represents one of the most dominant single seasons in baseball history. What made this dynasty special was their clutch performance. The Yankees seemed to elevate their play in the biggest moments, with players like Jeter, Williams, and Rivera consistently delivering when the stakes were highest. Their postseason record during this stretch was an incredible 43-15. This dynasty also represents the perfect marriage of old-school baseball values and modern analytics. The Yankees combined traditional scouting with statistical analysis, veteran leadership with young talent, and organizational stability with strategic flexibility. The dynasty's end came in dramatic fashion when they lost the 2001 World Series to the Arizona Diamondbacks in 7 games, with Rivera suffering a rare blown save in the 9th inning of Game 7. It was a fitting end to a dynasty that had thrived on clutch performance. The 2010 to 2014 San Francisco Giants represent a different type of dynasty, one built on pitching, defense, and postseason magic rather than regular season dominance. The Giants won 3 World Series titles in 5 years, 2010, 2012, 2014, but they never won more than 94 games in any of those seasons. Instead, they specialized in getting hot at the right time and performing brilliantly in October. This dynasty was anchored by a core of Madison Bumgarner, Buster Posey, and Pablo Sandoval, with contributions from players like Tim Lincecum, Matt Cain, and Hunter Pence. Their strength was their ability to pitch and play defense, while their offense was opportunistic rather than overwhelming. What made the Giants special was their postseason performance. They went 34-14 in playoff games during their 3 championship runs, showing an ability to elevate their play when it mattered most. Bumgarner's 2014 World Series performance, when he pitched on short rest in Game 7, represents one of the greatest individual postseason performances in baseball history. The Giants' dynasty shows that sustained excellence doesn't always require regular season dominance. Sometimes, the ability to peak at the right moment and perform under pressure is more valuable than consistent regular season success. Finally, we come to the most controversial dynasty in recent memory: the 2017 to 2022 Houston Astros. The Astros won 2 World Series titles and appeared in 4 World Series during this 6-year stretch, establishing themselves as the American League's dominant team. However, their legacy is complicated by the sign-stealing scandal that tainted their 2017 championship. Despite the controversy, the Astros' sustained success is undeniable. They built their dynasty around a core of Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, and George Springer, with excellent pitching from Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, and others. Their success was built on analytics, player development, and organizational commitment to winning. What makes the Astros' dynasty interesting is how they maintained their excellence even after the scandal broke and key players departed. Their 2022 World Series victory, achieved without several stars from their earlier teams, showed the depth and resilience of their organization. The Astros represent the modern approach to building a dynasty: embrace analytics, invest in player development, and maintain organizational focus even when facing adversity. Whether their legacy will be defined by their success or their scandal remains to be seen. Looking at all these dynasties, several common factors emerge that separate sustained excellence from temporary success. Organizational culture. Every dynasty had a culture that prioritized winning above individual achievement. Whether it was the Yankees' professionalism, the Big Red Machine's confidence, or the A's competitive fire, successful dynasties created environments where excellence was expected. Star power. Dynasties need superstars who can perform in the biggest moments. From DiMaggio to Mantle to Bench to Jeter, every dynasty had players who elevated their games when the stakes were highest. Depth and balance. Championship teams need role players who can contribute when called upon. Dynasties have depth throughout their roster and balance between offense, defense, and pitching. Timing and health. Dynasties require good fortune with injuries and timing. The best teams can overcome some adversity, but sustained success requires key players to stay healthy during crucial periods. Adaptability. The best dynasties could adjust their approach based on circumstances, whether it was the Cardinals adapting to wartime roster changes or the Yankees transitioning between generations of stars. Successful dynasties showed flexibility. Clutch performance. Perhaps most importantly, dynasties perform their best when the stakes are highest. Regular season success means nothing without postseason excellence. From Babe Ruth's Yankees to the Big Red Machine to the modern Astros, baseball dynasties aren't just about talent. They're about perfect timing, organizational culture, and the ability to win when it matters most. These dynasties represent the pinnacle of baseball achievement, showing what's possible when everything aligns perfectly. They remind us that in baseball, as in life, sustained excellence is the ultimate achievement. Anyone can have a good year or even a good decade, but creating a dynasty, a period of dominance so complete that it redefines what's possible, that's baseball immortality. These dynasties didn't just win championships. They changed how we think about excellence, showed us new ways to play the game, and created memories that last forever. They represent the best of what baseball can be when talent, timing, and organizational culture come together in perfect harmony.